death was not in vain. Something in James Patrick has touched the whole world, and we wish we could turn the clock back 2.5 weeks. We wish we could make things better. We wish so much that we could bring James back.
Hi guys, thanks for joining me on this video. I played Tears in Heaven because that was played at James's funeral, so I just thought it was fitting to put it in there. This has been a horrific case to cover. The reason that I'm doing it is because one of the murderers of James Bulger is due up for parole. James's dad has been in touch with the parole board asking not to release this person because he's been released prior and was found with child pornography on his computer. But I'll get into all that as the video goes on. I just wanted to just give you a warning. This case is extremely graphic. What happened to this little boy is beyond evil. And it's been really hard to do this video. But I think it's important because a lot of people have forgot this case. A lot of people don't want to touch this case because of just how evil it is. But as I said, I think it's important because John Venables is now up for parole. Get into what James's dad has said about Venables being up for parole and everything about him. He's an animal, he's a monster. I can't put it any simpler than that. So let me just get into this case and let's get started. James Patrick Bulger was born on the 16th of March in 1990 in a place called Kirby, England, and I think it's in the Liverpool area. His parents, Ralph and Denise, they'd previously lost a daughter. She was stillborn, so when James was born, like the picture he held, they were over the moon. He was a beautiful little baby. He had big blue eyes, light brown hair, and he was just a happy-go-lucky child who was always smiling and making his parents laugh. His mum Denise absolutely doted on him, and she was very, very protective. But a routine trip to the shops just before his third birthday is about to rip this family apart. So I'm going to take you to the Friday, the 12th of February, 1993. Denise's, I'm not sure, but I think it was one of her friends had asked her if she wanted to go with her to the Strand shopping centre. It was their local shopping centre. And Denise agreed. She put James's jacket on because it was a cold day, put his hat on, put his gloves on, and she looked at her stroller, but she decided she wasn't going to take it. She normally took it every time she went out with James. Because he was like a rambunctious kid, he loved to like run around and stuff, so yeah, she normally just took that with her, but this time she didn't, and she absolutely regrets that. So they go to the Strand shopping centre, and our friend wanted to return something. While they're there, Denise heads into the butcher shop to buy some stuff. While she's paying for what she's bought from the butcher's, she lets go of James's hand for literally a few seconds. When she turns around to look to see where James is, he's gone. She can't find him, and she becomes absolutely frantic.
I lived in, well, everyone knows Kirby, I think. Not far from my mum. I'd say a 2-minute walk from my mum's. The area was really nice area to live. People were so friendly. Nice little flat. Wasn't big, but, you know, that's the way I wanted it. I had my little family in there. Always wanted to be a mum. Coming from a big family, I was one of the babysitters anyway, so I was always minding one of the kids, which I always loved doing. Always loved being around kids. I couldn't wish for anything better at that point. James was loved by all. But as he started taking more and more steps, he didn't then walk into a room, he'd run into a room. You knew when James was there because all you seen was the blonde bouncy hair running as he run past you. He wouldn't leave my side really, no matter where I sat. When we were all in my mum's, no matter where I sat, James was always on my knee. He loved to make people laugh. He was a little character. It was a really cold morning. I did put a big thick coat on him, his hat, his gloves, scarf, everything. A girlfriend of my other brother comes walking in. She says, I'm going to Strand, do you want to come? So I won't be long, I'm just taking something back. I went, yeah, I'll come with you. The buggy was in the hallway. That's the only time I left that buggy. I never left that buggy anyway. Whether I folds it up and carries it under my arm, I never left that buggy anyway. That was the only day I left it. That was the biggest mistake of my life.
Denise starts frantically searching for James. She doesn't think he'll get far because he's only 2. How far could a 2-year-old really go? She thought that he'd maybe like wandered into a shop. He loved those little rides, you know, that you put the coins in and it spins round or the car goes up and down. He loved that. So she thought she'd find him on one of them. She went in and out of every shop in that shopping centre and could not find James anywhere. That's the time that the police then got involved, and yeah, they searched the shopping centre. They actually waited, when the shopping centre closed, they actually got all the store key holders to come back. So when it was all empty, they could open the stores again so the police could search to see if James was inside one of the stores and he'd been locked in. But unfortunately, yeah, he wasn't there at all. The police then decided to look at the CCTV cameras in the shopping centre, and they saw what they thought was 2 teenage boys leading James out of the shopping centre. It literally took them less than 1.5 minutes to take James away from his mum and leave the shopping centre. That is how quick and precise these little demons were. But the police didn't know who they were because the CCTV was really grainy. Then CID also got involved. CID is Britain's detectives, and they look into cases that are more serious. So by day one, they still couldn't find James. They thought maybe that he'd wandered out of the shopping centre to begin with, until they seen these two boys leading him out. They then thought that maybe these two boys had found James lost and they were taking him to safety. They couldn't wrap it round in their heads that these two boys, John Venables and Robert Thompson, would go on to commit the disturbing, and I have to preface this, what they did to this little boy, what they did to James, is disturbing, it's evil, it's sick. And a lot of people have said, oh, but they were only 10. No, like 10-year-olds know right from wrong. What they did was all premeditated, because they tried to take another kid before they took James. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just look into the police's search for James and the arrest of John and Robert. So at first the police genuinely thought that James had just wandered out of the shopping centre, until they seen the CCTV footage where Venables and Thompson are leading him out. They then put this information and these still photos out to the public, and a breakthrough came in finding James's killers when this footage was released. One of Thompson's neighbours recognised the CCTV images of the two boys on national television. She had seen the two boys the day Jamie went missing, and she knew that they were skipping school. They were known to skip school. Thompson was always truanting. Venables had just recently started at the school that Thompson was at. Because he'd been expelled from his previous school, he would attack other students. He tried to choke another child by holding a wooden ruler up to his neck and pulling it tight. So yeah, he'd been expelled from his previous school. Thompson was no better at this school. He was, as I said, he was a truant. He was cheeky. They swore. They would skip school. They would steal. They were just little criminals. So the police responded to the woman's call, and Venables and Thompson were arrested. The police were absolutely shocked. These were two little boys. How could they possibly be involved in this? At first they just didn't believe it. They thought that, yeah, these can't be the people that have done this. But yeah, they were. They absolutely were. Now, the finding of James's body came 2 days after he was abducted by Venables and Thompson. Some little boys were playing on the train track and they found him. Now I'm going to go through, before I get to the interviews of Venables and Thompson, I'm going to go through, and this is a part that I'm going to put a major warning about, because what these boys did to James is, I have no words. This is one of the most disturbing things. Having to research this and read all case files on this case, especially as to what they did to James. This was shocking, absolutely shocking. So I'm just going to warn you, if you want to skip this part, I don't really blame you. But yeah, this is a warning, because I'm going to go into what they actually did. So James's mutilated body was found on a railway line 2 days later, on February the 14th, Valentine's Day of 1993, they walked this little boy nearly 3 miles away from the shopping centre to a place they could be not disturbed. On the way, they would pick him up and drop him. He actually had blood on his face as they were walking him to his death. It's unbelievable. When they got to the railway tracks, they threw paint on him. They hit him with bricks, stones. They hit him with an iron bar on the head. They kicked him. They stamped on him. They placed batteries in his mouth. And detectives believe that they also inserted the batteries up his anus. It's so disturbing. Finally, the boys dropped a 22-pound railway plate on his head. He sustained 10 skull fractures as a result of the bar that was striking him on the head. And then they dragged him over the railway line, covered his head in stones, and left him there. Now this is a railway line, a working railway line. So a train passed over and severed his body, cut his body in half. The police believe that James was gone before the train did this. The police also believe that he was sexually assaulted because when they found him, he was naked from the waist down. They found evidence that his penis, the foreskin on his penis, had been pulled back with force because there was blood there. This little boy was tortured, absolutely tortured, and I can't imagine what the parents, and even those little boys that found him, he's a baby, he's 2. But what his parents went through when they found out this information. James's uncle was the one who went and identified his body, and the police said, this is so hard. The police said that when he came out, he was broken, absolutely broken. Imagine having to go and see your 2-year-old nephew who you love and cherish so much, to see his little body cut in half. He's been sexually assaulted by these 2 little, I want to swear but I'm not going to, and brutally tortured. There's absolutely no words. And I've seen lawyers on the news saying, oh, they were only little boys, they didn't know better. They knew better. Because as I said, they tried to abduct another child before they took James. But luckily, the mother saw them and she managed to get her kid back. They went to that shopping centre with a plan to take a child and murder this child. Even on the route that they took little James, the nearly 3 miles, there's a police station just across the road from the railway station. They had every opportunity to even take him in there. They could have just left him at the door and walked away. People passed and saw them. 2 members of the public stopped them to find out what was going on. And they lied and said it was their little brother and he'd fell. They had every opportunity to do the right thing and they didn't. Now I'm going to play the police interviews of these little animals, and I know that might be, me calling them animals might be a sore subject for some people because they were 10, and you'll hear their voices, they sound like little, I don't give a flying fig if people unsubscribe or they leave a comment saying they dislike what I'm saying. I don't really care. These are animals, these little boys, and they're not even little boys anymore. So yeah, I'm just going to get into the interviews. What they did to this little baby is beyond disturbing, and the fact that they planned it shows premeditation. It shows that, and they also know right from wrong. You can tell in their police interviews, they lie, they blame each other, they're sneaky, they're sly, especially Robert Thompson. John Venables, he's just a lost cause, and I'll get into that in a little while. But yeah, I'm going to play some clips that I've taken from different documentaries. I already played the one of James's mother. And I'm going to let the detectives tell you in their own words. I'm sorry, I'm a bit angry now because imagine this being your kid and okay, let's get into this.
This interview's been tape recorded. I'm Detective Sergeant Roberts. Now, what's your full name?
Robert Thompson.
I then started interviewing and sort of getting involved with the story, what they were doing that day.
I'm Dominic Lloyd. I was Robert Thompson's solicitor at the time of the case. A solicitor arriving at a police station can normally expect to do a lot of waiting. In this case, there was none of that. We started work straight away because that's the only work that was being done there.
It was a small interview room. So just picture it. Table, wall, and the tape machine. To my left was Robert Thompson. What do they call you, Robert or Bobby?
Robert.
I think Bobby's a more friendly name. Do you agree?
Yeah.
You've got a social worker and a defence solicitor, and then you've got two big burly detective sergeants all in a room. He wasn't frightened. He wasn't fazed by any of it. Some people might say because he didn't understand what was going on. He knew what was going on.
I just want to know a little bit about you now, okay? What's your hobby then?
Skipping school.
Skipping school, is that right?
That's not a hobby, that's a profession, Bobby, when you do it as well as you.
I really could not bring myself to believe that he had any involvement in this. Just from his youth, just from how small, how young, how childlike he was.
Bobby, I came round to your house this morning, didn't I?
Yeah.
What did I say to you?
Listen.
Correct. What for?
James.
James, what about James?
That you said on suspicion of murdering.
Well, very well remembered.
Robert Thompson's interviews, he admitted quicker he was in the Strand. I think at one stage, really early on, he says he saw James with his mother.
Did you ever see him in the Strand? You shook your head again.
Yeah.
Bobby, was that on the day that we're talking about? Was that on this Friday? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were going up the escalators, they were coming through the doors that there's loads of.
Who was he with?
No,
Little James.
with Mum.
With his mum.
And then his interviews quite quickly get to the stage where he has John taking his hand and taking him out.
He was just running around, was he, James?
Yeah.
Will you tell me exactly what? Slowly, right?
Just said come here. And then he grabbed his hands and walked up the stand. Like the day. I think it's Marks and Spencer's shop.
Right.
By the thing, the water.
Look at the canal bridge. The boy was streetwise. He was quite clever.
Well, you were with John all the time, weren't you?
Yeah. Not all the time, because we were running in front of each other.
Yes, but did he grab hold of James?
I don't know.
You don't know?
He might have made them follow on behind us.
Did he?
And then got him lost somewhere.
That was one thing about Robert Thompson. He was quite confident in himself. He was streetwise, thought he was clever, but he didn't show really any anxiousness. All he was waiting for was to go home. I don't think he recognised the fact that what he'd done was that bad.
How did he come up to John?
How did he come up to John?
James.
You know, he was walking down the strand.
Who was? James?
The baby.
Was he?
I told him to take him back.
You did what?
Told him to take him back.
You told him to take it back?
All right,
Blame.
Bobby. No, you're not getting all the blame. We're just asking his son. We're trying to find
we
out
usually
truth.
all make the blame.
Wait a minute, Bobby. Listen.
Once he admitted coming out of the Strand with James, that was a great breakthrough.
Well, you were in the Strand at the same time the baby was there,
Yeah,
weren't
you
you?
said that we took the baby.
No, I didn't say that you took the baby.
I don't know what he was like education-wise, but he was switched on. Definitely switched on. And he was trying to calm me. Trying very hard.
Before you said we were with the baby.
No. I said
Take me.
that. No, just a second. Listen to me, Bobby.
I can hear how sneaky and sly Thompson is, putting words into the police officer's mouth. Oh, he got every time that they would approach the subject of them taking James, he'd get upset, and the police would say he played on this, because when he would get upset, they would give him a Mars bar and a Coke, and he quickly learned every time that he cried, he got this treat. Now here's some more of this. Yeah. It's important to play these though. It's so important, because then you can hear they might sound young, but they're switched on, and even the police said that.
And his interviews quite quickly get to the stage where he has John taking his hand and taking him out.
You see, little James is following you up on stage, right? But on another picture, John, it appears as if John had hold of his hand.
Yeah, well, why are you questioning me and John as well?
There was nothing coming from Edibles, but he was a different character altogether.
Well, we knew Venables had been in the Strand, and it was admitted that Venables and Thompson were together, so we knew, even before we started interviewing them, that they'd been in the Strand. The first and second interview, Venables just told us about how he was playing truant, getting up to mischief in and around Walton, County Road, never been near the Strand.
As you hear in the first interviews, they were interviewed multiple times. They denied it. They said that, oh, he got lost. You heard them. I don't have to reiterate it for you. Venables denied everything. So the police thought they would take another approach, and they would say that Thompson already admitted that they were in the shopping centre, because they were denying even being there.
But you took him by the hand and led him out of the Strand shop.
We never. He's a liar.
Calm down. Oh my gosh.
Alright, come on, look.
At the end of interview 3, we tell him that Robert Thompson has already told us that he's been in the Strand, and then he admits being in the Strand.
So you were in Bootley Strand?
Was you in Bootle Strand?
We never got a kid, Mum. We never got a kid.
I must ask you not to get angry with it.
I never got the boy. I never killed him, Mum.
And then he admits, being with James, and then taking James
So we walked up to him and we were walking around with him and I took his hand.
And whose idea was it to walk towards him?
Mine.
Was it?
Then it was Robert's idea to kill him.
That's when I felt sort of, boom, you get a bit of a thud, thinking, oh my God, we have got the right kids.
So the tactic of telling Venables that Thompson had already basically told them everything that happened made Venables admit it. But, as I said, he blamed it all on Robert, but Robert blamed it all on him. I'm going to play more of their interviews. It's unbelievable the way these two little thugs lie.
He said that the two of you were in the Strand and that you saw the little boy.
We never.
He's taking us around everywhere he went, but he's not volunteering anything in relation to the Strand. And when he gets asked about the Strand, he just told us he was basically here, there and everywhere around Walton, shoplifting and getting up to no good.
Have the God's honest truth?
God's honest truth, I'm telling you that we never. He was too scared. He was probably too scared.
John saying to us that he wasn't down at the Strand.
But we were.
I know you were at the Strand, but why should he lie to us by saying that he wasn't in the Strand? He's scared of saying that he was down in the Strand because something happened, didn't it?
After they got took.
Yeah.
Not by me.
So after all their lies, wasn't there, wasn't me, we never took the baby, we never when you find out what they did to them, you're like, you don't really care about us crying then. I just think like, I've got no sympathy for these two boys. So they finally let Mishy do her at the Strand, that they seen James, but they never took him. But the police kept on and on at the interviews, slowly acting like their friends so they could gain their trust. And then that's when the story came out more and more. They still blamed each other. They still said, oh, he killed him. And Venables would say, no, he did it. More interview coming.
I know the truth. I believe I know the truth.
I was there.
That's
You
right.
weren't.
Correct, but I know that a lot of things have gone on.
Yeah, well, do you know it was me that killed him? It wasn't. I never even killed him.
My name is Laurie Dalton. I was a detective constable for 26 years. Thompson was calculating. He cried whenever there was an awkward situation, and he was immediately given a Mars bar and a can of Coke. And he latched onto this, because when I say he cried, there was not a drop of water. There wasn't a tear.
The boy was streetwise. He was trying to calm me. He thought he was going home, because he kept on asking, well, am I going home?
2055.
Are you able to go home tonight?
We don't know yet, And I want you to tell
I
me.
don't need to answer any more questions, do I?
Hey, come on now, Bobby.
That why I would want to kill him when I've got a baby of my own.
I'm trying
If I wanted to kill a baby, I'd kill my own, wouldn't I?
That is a warped mind. Very rare in kids' minds.
It's a chilling thing to say with hindsight. At the time, it simply seemed to be part of a pattern of desperate lying, of desperately just trying to talk about anything else other than this.
He was working the police, basically, or he believed he was. Phil Roberts knew exactly what was going on.
Was he able to talk?
No.
James?
Yeah.
What did he say to you?
No, want me now.
That's quite a bit cold, very eerie, the fact that he actually said it in the way James would have said it.
You want me now.
Once he started to admit that he was the one with Venables to leave the Strand, that's when your heart is pumping and you feel like punching the air. And then admitting that he was one of the two boys that was with James, that's when you're feeling excited, fact, or achievement, that you've abstracted what you want. Now you want to go further.
Now, as I said, they told John Venables that Robert had already told them what happened, and Venables was the first to crack, so here's him admitting that they took James.
And we went outside to the canal.
What for?
Don't know, we said let's throw him in the water. He was persuading him, he said kneel down and let's look at the water and all that, but he wouldn't. Because when we wouldn't get him down, Robert picked him up and threw him on the floor, and that's where he got his bump on his head.
This then became the difficult part, because now we've got two 10-year-olds who have killed a 2-year-old, and we have to then make sure that we provide all the evidence that we can to show what happened. We got a sense of what sort of went on the journey. They walked him past Queen's Drive, past Christchurch, took him onto the reservoir.
Why had you carried on walking away with him up to the reservoir?
Take him up to Wanton Village.
What were you gonna? Why were you taking him up to Wanton Village?
Don't know, we didn't know what to do.
You walk along where?
The train track.
We got no witnesses whatsoever to the final violent act. Our priority was solely to discover what happened to James.
We took him on the rail truck and started throwing bricks at him.
Venables sought to remove himself from any of the most violent actions, putting them all down to Robert Thompson, saying that I only hit him a few times because Robbie told me to do it, but, you know, I didn't do it really hard.
I didn't throw any bricks, because Robbie said pick a brick up and throw it, I just threw it on the floor.
So just like the police had told Venables that Thompson was blaming everything on him, they then went to Thompson and told him, no, Venables is blaming everything on you.
We were getting information coming through from a lower lane where Venables was being held that he was now blaming Thompson.
We certainly admitted throwing stones and things like that.
But he's blaming you for a lot of things.
Yeah, but
Do
why
you
is he
understand?
blaming me?
Well, I want to know the truth, right? The whole truth. There's other things going on, isn't there?
They both started blaming each other.
I'm going to end up getting all the blame because I've got blood on me.
We're asking you, Tom, and we want you to tell us the truth, that's all. Not give the blame to you or anything else. But it's only the truth that we're
Yeah, but
concerned
if Johnny
about.
threw a brick in his face.
Because he knew there was only him, Venables and James, he knew that it would be hard for me to say who did what, and that's why it was easier for him to blame it all on Venables.
Can we just go through slowly, right, what John did with what, right? You said he got hit with a brick first, did he? Then, what did he do?
Another.
He threw another brick.
These are the boys that took James from Denise outside the Strand and then left him where he died and actually ultimately killed him. We had the individuals responsible
So I have like a few more clips of the interviews. So here's more of Venables.
What was Robert saying while he was doing all this?
He was saying, stay down, you stupid dick, and all that.
Why did he want him to stay down?
Don't know. Wanted him dead, probably.
Where did the stones in the bar hit him?
In the head.
And you say the bar knocked him out?
Yeah. Onto the railway track.
What happened then?
No, he was just lying there. To finish now, because I can't speak anymore.
By the time the interviews are over, John has made an admission. Robert hasn't, and said it was all John. And John has tried to push and blame in Robert's direction. And that was the point at which we left the police interviews.
You're under caution, and you do not have to say anything unless you wish to do so, but anything you say may be given in evidence. Now you understand that, don't you, John?
Yeah.
Alright. I have a photograph here, which is a video camera photograph.
That's me. That's me.
So the boy holding James's hand is you.
Yeah.
And the boy ahead of you, in the dark jacket and trousers, Robert Thompson. And what was it you told us?
That I killed James.
Right. Now, I know that took a lot of doing.
I can't tell you anything else.
Why?
That's the worst bit.
Why? Okay, right. I know that's the worst bit, but you know what you did. Why? Think about it. Why? And just tell us what happened.
He took me on the railway track and started throwing bricks at him. And then
Who did?
Robbie.
Why did he throw bricks at him?
No.
Where did the stones in the bar hit him?
In the head.
Was he bleeding?
Or either.
Where was he bleeding from?
Face. Then it was Robert's idea to kill him.
Okay.
To finish now because I can't speak anymore.
You can hear the calculation in these two boys' voices and obviously in their minds, where they lie to begin with, say they were never there, then they were there and they had him, but he got lost somewhere. Then, yeah, they did take him to the railway line, but it wasn't me that did it, it was him. And it was they were pointing fingers at each other. They never admit, I don't think Robert Thompson ever admits that he had anything to do with it. John Venables never admits he did it. But to have that mind frame where you know how to lie to blame someone else, and you know how to lie to say I wasn't there, it's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. And as the police said, Thompson was calculated. He was working the police. Both of them were liars, and they were good liars. They never admit to the full extent of what happened until quite later on, which will come out during the case, when you hear all the graphic details which I explained earlier, which are horrifying, of what they did to this little boy. Now, I'm going to play the pathologist. He's going to show you the details of the injuries to Jamie's head alone.
The forensic evidence was chilling. The pathologist evidence was that I think 42 separate injuries to James, a minimum of 30 separate blows, either with bricks, stones, a metal object, or feet to the body of James. So it was a prolonged, shockingly violent attack, which frankly could have had no other purpose other than to kill.
Now, blood was found on Thompson's shoes. Also, they had got a life-size doll which was similar in size to little James, and had shown the court the indents of Robert's shoes to little James's face. They found, as I said, I think they've said that they found blood on his shoes, because you hear him in an interview, "Oh, I'm getting the blame because I've got blood on me." It's unbelievable.
Thompson's trainers had been removed without untying the laces. The police had seized his trainers. They were able to take an imprint of the laces as they were tied. It was a double bow. There were some very marked D-rings, they were called, through which the laces had been laced.
The evidence as to why these marks were made by Robert's footwear, and ultimately the evidence concluded where the scientist had taken a life-size doll and the footwear and placed the footwear in contact with the doll's head, where it would make the impression that was visible. That was a moment of clarity for me, yeah. I had by that time quite a long relationship with him, during which time he had denied all involvement, and to be presented with a picture like that didn't break my relationship. It just meant that I had to be aware that there was something else in it now. Yeah.
So that was Thompson's lawyer you just heard there. He totally believed that they had nothing to do with this, and when he saw the evidence in court, as he said there, that was clarity for him. He knew that they had done this. But yeah, he still had to be his lawyer. Now, the court case was, people were angry. People actually wanted to kill these little boys. I'm going to show you scenes from outside the court that I want to stress. There's some swearing and that in here, but tensions were high. So yeah, I'm just going to play this clip.
Public anger was almost unprecedented. There was a near riot the first time the two appeared in court.
Yeah, as you can see, people were angry. They were angry. Because what happened to James is evil. It was evil, what they did. Now, the court case was switched to another court because the police didn't anticipate the level of hatred that people had for Venables and Thompson. I'm not even going to call them little boys anymore because they're older now. Yeah, the police didn't anticipate that. There was about 300 people outside that first court date. So they switched courts. The trial went ahead, and the police were worried that the jury would look at them like two little boys and would find them not guilty. But the jury came back with a verdict of guilty, and the judge sentenced them to be remanded at His Majesty's pleasure. And he said that they would be spending a long, long time in jail. James's mum even said that. She stayed away from the court. She didn't want to see what they... Yeah, she didn't want to go through all the evidence of what happened to her little boy's body. I don't think I could either. But she went for the last day of court.
For nearly 4 weeks, she has stayed away. But this morning, for the final stages of the trial of two 11-year-old boys accused of the murder of her toddler, Mrs. Denise Bulger came in person to Preston Crown Court.
I wanted to wear the sentence that they were given. That experience in itself, you know, sitting so close to the two that took my son's life, took my world away from me, destroyed my life. It's so close to me. I couldn't believe that they were standing there laughing. You just want to see the ones who took your worlds away from you go down.
Now, as I said, they were found guilty by the jury. The judge sentenced them to serve at His Majesty's pleasure, so that could mean whenever they're deemed fit to get out. The judge told them in court that they would be spending a long time in prison, so James's mum assumed that they would at least go to like a young offenders, then into an adult prison. She expected them to get like 20 years, but the judge ruled that it would be 8 years. Another judge then put that up to 12, so they then went to the Home Secretary with a petition with millions and millions of people signed this petition, and he changed their sentence to 15 years, and Denise was happy with that because at least she knew that they would serve some time in an adult prison. But another judge said no, that's too long, and he sentenced them to 7 years, 8 months, which meant they would spend no time in prison. They got sent to children's homes. And another documentary came out exploring what happened while they were in these children's homes. And Thompson, within a year, was taken out to shopping centres, to go on hikes, to go to sports centres. They went to Liverpool football games. They got treated. And they would be released from this children's home. Now, in the children's home, they had swimming pools. There was a jacuzzi. Cushy life, right? They weren't being punished at all. And I can see why Denise and her husband were so furious about this. Because it didn't feel like justice at all. It felt like there was... no one cared about what happened to James. As if he didn't matter. So when they were 18, they were released on parole. I have to preface this as well. During the court, when the judge decided that he would release their pictures and their names, he also put in a stipulation that when they were released from the children's homes, they would get new identities, new lives, and lifelong anonymity. So no one ever knew who they were. What a kick in the teeth, eh? But, yeah, so they were released when they were 18. Now, Thompson has went on to kind of keep his head down. Imagine, like, ever someone dating him and not knowing that he, like, murdered a 2-year-old. Venables, however, he's another story. So, as I said, they got out when they were 18. Venables was arrested when he was about 26 or 27. He was going on the dark web and saying that he was a female, and he has a child, and he wanted to offer his child up for abuse, to be abused by sick perverts on the dark web. He was also found with an obscene amount of child abuse, child pornography on his computer. He was sentenced to 2 years, and then he was arrested yet again for the same thing. His life was, he hasn't got better. He's demented. Venables. He's a danger to society.
When he was released, he was in the charge of probation officer, and his life was to descend into chaos. He was collecting child abuse pornography online and going online pretending to be a woman with a child who they were offering up for other people to abuse.
John Venables became one of Britain's most notorious child killers. He's been sentenced to 3 years and 4 months in prison after pleading guilty to downloading over 1,000 images of child sex abuse.
Yeah, definitely did say told you so. When he re-offended, I knew all along it was going to happen. I didn't know when it was going to happen, but I did know it'd happen. It took him a bit of time, but he got there, as I knew he would. I'm hoping they are seeing through him now, and I'm hoping that they are realising that he is a danger, and he is a danger to society. But for everyone who says, you know, should let it go, why should I let it go? It was my son that he took. I'm never going to let this go.
So the reason I wanted to make this video is because Venables is now up for parole again. He's a ticking time bomb. He and his friend brutally murdered a child, left him on a railway track, sexually assaulted him, and he got the public taxpayers. I mean, to keep these them two in these children's homes, it's $3,000 a week. $3,000 a week. And that's not including all the therapy, the days out, the special treats, all the help that they got. And granted, yes, Thompson has kept his head down low. He's still a monster if you ask me. But Venables, no, he hasn't. He's went on to want to abuse children. Can you imagine if he gets out? He's as I said, a ticking time bomb, and he gets his hand on another child. You know what's going to happen to that child. It's going to, and that scars a child. Scars a child. So James's dad has appealed to the parole board. Please don't let this guy out. Please don't let him out, because when he's let out, he's given a whole new identity. He's placed somewhere in the UK, we don't know where. So no one knows that this is a pedophile, no one knows that this is a murderer, and no one knows that they would need to keep their children safe from this demon. So James's dad went on the news and he was interviewed by Jeremy Kyle, and I really want to play this interview. This is so important because John Venables is warped in the head. Even the psychologist that treated him in the children's home said he had a demented look about him, that he was psychologically demented, yeah. But the parole board still thought it was fine to let him out, and as James's mum said, she knew that if you're capable of murdering a 2-year-old in such a horrifying way, yeah, you're messed up in the head if you can do that. I don't know. I don't know any sane person that could do that, even at 10. So I'm going to play James's dad's interview. I know this has been an extremely long video, but it's so important, because would you want Venables living near you, knowing that he's a pedophile and a murderer? I certainly wouldn't, because he's going to strike again. And what if it's your child, your grandchild, your niece, your nephew, your best friend's kid, your grandkid? The signs are all there. And he just, I pray that he doesn't get released. He is one of these people that can't be rehabilitated. He just can't. He's just dangerous.
Decades after James Bulger was murdered at the age of 2, his father is fighting to keep one of his killers behind bars for the rest of his life. It was a murder so brutal and unimaginable it still stands as one of the worst in our history. In a moment we'll hear from Ralph Bulger, but first, let's just remind you of what happened.
James Bulger was abducted from a shopping centre in Merseyside by 2 10-year-olds. They then tortured and murdered him on a railway line.
John Venables and Robert Thompson became the youngest convicted murderers in British history. 8 years later, in 2001, they were freed with new identities. But John Venables, who's twice been released, has also twice been caught with images of child abuse.
Now he could once again be leaving jail. He's been granted a parole hearing which will be held in private by a 3-person panel. If released, he will yet again have a chance at freedom with a new identity. Now, James's father, Ralph Bulger, wants to make sure that never happens. We spoke to him earlier.
Ralph, I really appreciate you being with us today. I know we've spoken before, and I know that this sort of thing for you is difficult. And before we talk about this latest parole hearing, let's talk about James. He'd have been 33 now. This was a long, long time ago. Is it still fresh in your mind? What happens when you think every day about that horror?
You sort of have to keep it back. It is hard, but it's something I find if I keep my head into work, those memories don't come flooding back. What happened?
How do you survive? How did you survive? How did you get through those days?
Just go day by day. You just got to one foot in front of the other and just do the best you can.
And you've obviously thrown yourself into campaigning on James's behalf. Now, can you tell us a little bit about this parole hearing that is upcoming with one of the now men who were responsible for the death of your son?
Well, to be honest with you, I think you've got to do everything you can to try and keep him behind bars, because he's been a danger from day one. He's reoffended. To me, I think he enjoys what he's doing. And he's a ticking time bomb, just waiting to go off, in my opinion.
And now he's up for parole again. You feel it's your right, not only as a father, but as a responsible human being, knowing that there are other parents across the country whose children could potentially be exposed to this man because you don't believe he's changed.
Well, the younger generation don't really know about him.
No.
So, in order to let them know, you've got to do what you can to try and keep them in.
I have no idea what somebody like you, Ralph, has gone through. I've got soon to be 6 kids, and I remember the story and it breaks my heart. And I remember the first time we spoke and I could see the look in your face. You talk about putting one foot in front of the other. You talk about trying to suppress certain things. Do you tell your other kids about James?
I was talking to my older girls, my youngest daughter. She knows he's a brother, but we don't really go into detail with anything.
I'm not ignoring the parole thing for now. What I'm trying to get an idea of is how angry 30 years down the line you still are.
Same as day one.
Yeah.
What would you do if you saw him?
What would you do?
I know what I do, and I can sit here absolutely categorically and say I'd serve time if somebody did that to my child. I'm not trying to cause anything but honesty. I'm looking at you in your eyes. I can see that 30 years is a heartbeat. This boy's innocence was taken away. There are some people, and I remember Ralph saying this to you about 8 years ago. Somebody once said to me that when something heinous like this happens, the only way that you can survive and move forward is if you learn to forgive. Now, I truly will honestly tell you I couldn't forgive that, and you're shaking it. How?
No. Wait, I could never forgive him.
No.
And like you say, you got children of your own, and would you want them getting out and being near your children? So,
I think you should rot in hell for all eternity, that's what I think.
Putting them back into the public, where I think you will do this again. Who's going to be held responsible for it?
Who makes the decision about this parole? Is it a parole board, is it?
Well, the parole board, each and every one of them who release them should be held responsible for it. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know about what you think, Nick, but there's me, the way I am, and I know you, Ralph, thinking, so these parole board officials who are going to make this decision, do they know about the case? Have they ever had a child? Would they ever have imagined going through what you and your family have gone through? No.
Well, they can go home, sit back, not think about it again. But once he's on the streets, it's the public that's at danger. So.
And am I right in saying that he's been granted anonymity for his entire life?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's your belief, correct me if I'm wrong, that these behaviours that he has displayed in the times that he's been released from prison, the child abuse images, etc., it shows a pattern of behaviour that could potentially lead to physically harming another child.
Well, he was on that the dark web, is it?
The dark web, yeah.
And find out how to have sex with children and not be caught. That sort of tells you that he's waiting.
And you know it's really interesting, isn't it? This sort of conversation, because when this makes my blood boil. This piece of whatever will come out if he gets out in November. And let me tell you something, this show and I are going to do everything, and Nicola, because this should never happen. This guy's going to come out. His anonymity is going to cost the British taxpayer hundreds of thousands of pounds. It is proven, because as you say, he's been taken back in several times, that he could do it again. And yet what is wrong, Ralph? What's wrong with that? That's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's just like the justice system, it's failed.
And repeatedly failed you as well. Because, people could argue, well, obviously, he was a child himself when the initial,
Can I jump in for a minute, because he knows what I'm going to say?
Yeah.
It was proven afterwards, after James was killed, that they had tried to go up to a little boy 5 minutes before.
It's
should rot in hell for all eternity.
It is absolute, undeniable.
Premeditated.
Undeniable evil. But then as an adult as well, to keep reoffending with crimes that involve children. I think it's really important what you said about people nowadays, younger people, not really being aware of the case. I'm 34, so I only knew of the case because my parents warned me about it, because they'd seen about it in the news. I'm expecting my first baby, and thank you, but I worry now. I've been exposed to this brand new world of child safety, and perhaps, yes, 6 months ago might have thought, people deserve a second chance. But what you've just explained to us there so eloquently is that this man is a danger to society. And it feels to me like you're the only person who sees that.
Well, every child, in my opinion, is at risk while he's out. So.
And that's what I was trying to say to you, Ralph, that and it's a really interesting point that you make, because it is different the minute you have a kid.
Yeah.
And then the thought of that child being taken away from you. You have kept fighting though, Ralph. You have fought for the last however many years. Was that survival? Was it for James's memory? What does keep that going inside you?
That's for James, and to make sure it doesn't really happen again. If I can do anything to prevent it happening again, I'll do what I can.
Yeah.
If you had to sum up what it's done to you as a man, what would you say?
Destroyed me.
But you're fighting on, and you're doing this for other people.
Yeah.
And your strength really, really shines through. And we're so grateful for the work that you're doing, because you could so easily have left this in your past, and you would have every right to do that. But you're not doing this for yourself anymore, you're doing it for other people.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
What would give you some semblance of peace?
Just keep him in.
I'm going to look directly down camera one and I'm going to say something to the Justice Secretary in this country, Alex Chalk, who has been in the job 6 months. We're going to reach out to you, Alex Chalk. I'd like somebody from the government, from the Justice Department, which at best is very, very wrong in this instance, to explain to Talk Today how it is that somebody who can murder a child in a premeditated way, be released on several occasions only to re-offend, and as Nicola quite rightly said, child abuse accusations. Why the father of that victim, 30 years on, Mr. Chalk, needs to come on a television programme to prove through his sadness and the horror that he's had to deal with, he and his family, that that man should stay behind bars. You're the man that controls this. We want to hear from you. Ralph, I said to you 8 years ago, and I'll say to you now, mate, I think you're incredible. And I think that, I know I'm not trying to upset you, James would look down and he would say, Dad, thank you, because it's about a memory. I don't know how you control your anger. I'm sure there have been moments you've lost it over the last 30 years. For people watching this, put into words that moment when you heard, when you found out.
It's like it all opened up and swallowed. Yeah. Your life just ends.
And there's no closure, I think, in a situation like this. I think I've not been through anything close to what you've been through. But I believe that closure is a myth that people tell themselves they'll eventually reach. I don't think it does happen. What does happen is time passes and you learn how to cope in different ways. Ish. But what you're doing is taking positive action. And as I've said, you're not solely grieving. You're taking action to make sure that this man, within the best of your ability, is not exposed to more children and is not able to harm other people. And I hope that we here will support
the
you.
families or the lives, so
yeah,
the powers get that big, they've got to keep them in.
Yeah.
What's the answer? I appealed to Alex Chalk, and trust me, I'll be like a dog with a bone. What do you do? Do you go through your MP? What have you done? What's the response been from the parole board?
Like I say, I've been fighting this for 30 years and you're just getting nowhere with them.
I think for me, as an outsider who cares about you, because I've met you before, I think what I find so wrong, and I don't mean to talk in the wrong way to you, but to me there are evil people. And I'm sick to death of hearing, but we need to rehabilitate. There are certain people who do not deserve to be rehabilitated. True, Ralph?
They can't be rehabilitated. They've spent millions on them, and that's their little project that went wrong, you know what I mean? And it's proved to have gone wrong throughout the years, like the way he's reoffended. He likes what he does. He likes it. That the old top and bottom there. He wants to get another kid. That's the way I feel deeply.
And that any person, any adult watching you say that through the horror of what you've been through should absolutely agree with us that this man should never, ever, ever be allowed out.
That's it.
What did you hope for coming here today?
To be honest with you, just try and keep him in. Try and just someone to back me up.
And the fact that you've been asked at all these parole board hearings in the past to read out your victim impact statement, only to then see him released, it must feel almost hopeless.
Well, the thing with him, he was taught to lie from an early age. And this is what the system's created as well. So when he goes and sits amongst them, he'll just lie through his teeth. He'll tell them what they want to hear, because he's been trained by them to do that. You know what I mean? So.
And I would want a parole board to answer me this question. How on earth can they assess how safe a man is to come back into society when in prison he's not exposed to children, he's not exposed to the dark web? How can they possibly say that he's allowed?
If you had a child that had been murdered, would you allow this piece of rubbish out? Can I ask you a question that I'll probably get criticised for? Ralph Bulger, should life mean life?
Yeah, definitely. For something like that.
You are an incredible man. James will be so proud of you, and I can't even begin to put into words what the last 30 years have been like, but thank you so much indeed for coming on.
I'm a firm believer if you take someone's life and you mean to do it, that you should lose yours. You should be locked away for your entire life. Because that person's gone. They don't have a life anymore because of you. But I know some left-wing do-gooders will be like, oh, but they can be rehabilitated. Look how... I don't really care. I don't really care. I just firmly believe that if you snuff out someone else's life and it's premeditated, you're meant to do it, then you should pay the ultimate price of being locked away for the rest of yours. Now, James's mum has started a charity where she helps parents of people who have lost their children either by murder or death, where she had bought a caravan for them to go on a holiday. Then she upgraded it to a lodge. She's now remarried. She's not with James's dad anymore. She remarried and she has 3 grown-up sons now. I'll see if I can find the link for her charity and put it in the description box, because it's a worthwhile thing to do to help parents of who have lost their babies. And I think that's really amazing that she has took such a horrendous situation, a horrendous thing that happened, and turned it into something positive that will help other families. And I think it also helps her as well, because it's doing something in James's name. It's keeping his spirit alive. It's really lovely. So I'll try and find the link and put it in the description box if anybody wants to donate to that. But I urge people, like, if you live in the UK, write to like I think it's a Home Secretary and plead that this animal does not get let out of prison, because, as I said, we don't know where he'll be put. And he's been constantly in and out of prison since he got out of his cushy child home, where we've spent millions trying to rehabilitate. And then it's not only that, we're also paying for his new identity, for wherever he gets housed. That rent is all paid by the British taxpayer. We're paying the taxes for a murdering paedophile. It's angering. It's angering the way the British justice system works. I feel like in Britain, like the lowest sentence, I believe, I know people can get a life order if the crime's brutal, like this one was. It should have been a life order. But a lot of murderers are out in 15 years. It's a joke. They've took someone else's life from them. They do not have a life anymore because of these people. And then they're out in a few... I even saw a video of a guy, it was on TikTok, and he's standing outside the prison, and the guy comes walking out, and he's like, oh, wait, is that you just out of prison? And he's like, yeah, I'm going on like work release, and he's on his own. And he's like, oh, what are you in for? And the guy's like, murder. And I'm like, what? Like, where is the justice in that? So yeah, I know this video's been long, but it's been so important because, yeah, Venables is a lost cause. And as I said, it seems like Thompson has kept his head down, but I firmly believe he'll burn in hell for what the both of them will burn in hell for what they did to little James. It's unbelievable. And we can't even put, if anybody finds out that that's John Venables, you can't even say, like, you can't even say to anybody because they've got anonymity. It's illegal for you to, like, out that person. You'd get arrested. So thank you so much for, like, sticking through this video. I know some parts that have been really hard, especially if you listen to what happened to James. Honestly, my sympathy goes out to his mum and dad, but they've turned this tragedy into something positive, and they're really fighting for their son's memory, to keep at least one of those animals away from other children. So thank you so much, and yeah, I'll be back soon. Bye.